Hey folks, this is Denny Carter from Rotoworld, here to answer your questions. I'm sure you have many about waiver wire pickups as we head into week one. We are 2 days away from the Rams and the Bills kicking things off. I am already tilting my face off, creating showdown lineups for that game, getting into the spirit of the NFL season, making the viewing process as miserable as possible for myself. So give me your waiver wire Q&As. My waiver wire column is up at NBCSportsEdge.com, powered by Rotoworld. I talk about running backs, tight ends, receivers, quarterbacks, even kickers. Yes, I insisted that kickers remain in the column. I won't have a standalone kicker column this week, but this year, but I will talk about kickers. So check that out on the site if you'd like. And what I want to get across here mostly, and I'll get to some questions in just a moment, is that there's a top 10 list at the start of the waiver wire column. Now, it really depends on how you drafted your team. The priority players are going to, you're not going to have any interest really in getting, I don't know, Romeo Doubs if you started your draft with like CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and AJ Brown or something along those lines. Michael Pittman, maybe. I mean, there's no universe in which you're going to be starting Doubs over those guys. So, and the same goes for, running back heavy drafts. You're not going to be chomping at the bit to pick up, I don't know, Jeff Wilson, rostered in 10% of leagues, because you just don't have any interest. You're okay at the running back position. Okay, let's get into these questions. We have Patrick asks, Spiller or Josh Kelly? Well, both have been terrible in training camp and in the preseason. I don't think that they're a priority ad right now. You have, obviously, Sony Michel added to that Chargers backfield recently. I think that Michel would probably be a priority over those guys. But I'm not too concerned. I think it would be an ugly timeshare if Austin Eckler were to go down. We have a week one question here. I clicked it, so I'm going to answer it. I accidentally clicked it, but I will not delete it. Never delete. Never apologize. Donnie says Sutton or Montgomery for the flex this week. Well, I don't know if it's PPR or half PPR or whatever, cave person standard league, but I would go Sutton there. All right. Let's see. We are getting a question from Brett. Thank you, Brett, for joining the stream. Why do you think the value is so low on Rondale Moore right now? Well, I mean, he didn't do much last year, and I mentioned on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour on Peacock that Cliff Kingsbury, has been asked several times this offseason, hey, why was Rondale Moore not, more fully utilized in the Arizona offense last year? And his answer is, I don't know. Cliff Kingsbury says, not sure. We're looking into it very strongly, but I don't know at the moment. It's a very curious thing. But Moore has expressed frustration. He wants a full complement of snaps. I think he's going to get that at least to start the season, while DeAndre Hopkins is serving a 6-game suspension. So, he's out there in like 75% of leagues right now, Rondale Moore. And especially in PPR, I think he needs to be picked up, and he could serve as a flex pretty immediately. Let's look for some more. Let's try. I mean, I know week one start sits are burning a hole through your brainstem right now, but if we could look at the waiver wire, perhaps that would be good. So we have Donnie with another good question. Donnie, thank you for all the good questions. Who are some running back insurance options on the waiver wire? Well, I mean, you have the prototypical types. Alexander Madison's, he might be out there in some leagues. Khalil Herbert is available in 60% of Yahoo leagues. He needs to be rostered, especially if you went 0 RB or hero RB, whatever you want to call it, and you're going to be in need of churning and burning on the waiver wire to finally, get an RB2 that you can start, which is a great feeling, by the way, when that happens. Khalil Herbert could be that guy if David Montgomery misses time this year. Herbert was a top 15 PPR running back when Montgomery was out last year. That was without any touchdown luck whatsoever. 1 touchdown on 89 touches for Herbert in that little stretch where Montgomery was hurt. So if you're in need of RB2 help, either now or down the line, you need to get Herbert. He's available in 60%. Well, I'm seeing a comment here that Rondale Moore stinks. Well, I guess that's the end of that discussion. Then he stinks. What can you do? Matthew has a simple question. It's very straightforward. Matthew says, Mike Davis. Mike Davis? No. The answer is no. I actually wrote up Kenyon Drake in my waiver wire column because Kenyon Drake, shockingly, at least for me, showed that there is some gas left in that tank. He's entering his age 28 season. I understand that's very old for running back, but Mike Davis is not a spring chicken either. And Mike Davis was, by almost every measure, the worst running back in the NFL in 2021. Kenyon Drake was at least serviceable. He was among the top running backs in the league last year in yards per route run, which is a key metric we look at. So not that he's going to catch a ton of passes from Lamar Jackson in an offense that really doesn't check down, but I think he could be sneaky valuable just the same way that Devontae Freeman was sneaky useful for those who needed running back help late last season. And that Baltimore offense kind of gave him that opportunity. So let's see. We're going to go with Sheesh. Thanks, Sheesh, for joining the team, the stream, not the team, but this is the team. It's you and me. Tyrion Davis-Price, the rookie in San Francisco, a must-add. Not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso might say. I don't know. I just don't. I don't get the sense, and I do a lot of reading beat writers. I do a lot of listening to, interviews with Kyle Shanahan and other San Francisco coaches. I don't get the sense that Tyrion Davis-Price, Davis. I always want to say Price Davis. That TDP, as the Zoomers are calling him, is going to get something like a full workload if Elijah Mitchell misses time this season. I wrote up Jeff Wilson in my waiver wire column. Jeff Wilson's boring. I get it. He's a boomer pick. Usually I'm out. I'm out on boomer picks. I'm in on Jeff Wilson, a guy with lots of experience in the Shanahan system, and who, by all accounts, after Trey Sermon was released, after coaches were a little bit hesitant to give a full blessing to TDP, I think that Jeff Wilson could actually just be the guy. He's boring, but he could be the guy if Mitchell misses time this season. All right, I am scrolling through your comments because, man, there are a lot. Would I add? So here's a good one. Would you take Drake over Jeff Wilson? It kind of depends on your team need. But no, I think I would want Wilson right now. Let's go to Kid Mello, who says, Tyler Algier, any good? He is, in fact, good. He is good. And he's a workhorse. He was a workhorse in college, perhaps more so than any running back drafted in the 2022 NFL draft. And he's interesting. I tried to find a way. I did mention him down in the lower section of the running back area in the waiver wire column, just to say, hey, you know what? You might want to pick this guy up. But we got a report yesterday where it said that Damian Williams, the veteran 30-year-old running back, who you may remember as the guy who should have been the MVP of the Super Bowl when Kansas City beat the Niners, he is apparently in the lead to be heavily involved, whatever that means, in the Atlanta backfield. Cordarrelle Patterson is the guy to have in that backfield, and the reason for that is because running back targets and receptions are so much more valuable than running back carries. I don't foresee any scenario where the Falcons are able to establish the run to Arthur Smith's heart's content, perhaps. And so that leaves me a little bit cold on whoever is going to be that early down guy, that between the tackles guy, whether it's Damian Williams or Tyler Algier. But Tyler Algier does profile as a goal line back, so I suppose you could do worse. All right, let's go on to... can't do that. Well, we're going to save start sits for later this week, folks. So if you have any waiver wire questions, that would be great. All right, well, this is interesting. Peter says, as my QB2, should I start Tua? Wow, this is a start sit. You know what? I read too quickly. But we're going to answer it because, again, I never delete. Tua versus New England or Daniel Jones versus Tennessee. That's tough. That is tough. That's two not fantastic options. I would have to go with Tua just because, Tua is a product of game script. I think that Miami can garner some positive game script here. So let's go with Tua. We have Cody Heim saying, Deneth, thank you. And for those of you who don't know, people call me Deneth for some reason. I don't know. All right, let's get on to this question. Is Josh Palmer a better stash than either Kenyon Drake or Jeff Wilson? Again, and I hate to keep wiggling out of these questions. I'd like to say yes or no, but it really depends on the composition of your fantasy squad, right? If you hammered running backs early and you're a little shaky at wide receiver, which it happens, not to me, but it happens to other people, and that's fine. Josh Palmer is almost a must add, especially in 12-team leagues where you have to start maybe 3 or 4 receivers. I talked about Josh Palmer a few minutes ago on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Basically, he was really good when he got the chance, when he got a full complement of snaps and routes in that Chargers offense. The thing is, I don't know if he's usable. In fact, I would say no, he's not really usable in 12-team formats. As long as Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are healthy and upright. It's when they are not that Josh Palmer can slot in there and be really useful for fantasy managers. All right, let's go on to this question about the Packers receiving room. Christian Watson, much worse than rostering Dobbs. I guess not. I got a lot of pushback when I published the waiver wire piece. I got a little pushback saying, I guess from Watson truthers. I didn't know they were out there, but they are. And they're mad, very angry. Why not Watson? Well, I mean, do I have to specify? Watson missed basically all of training camp, and Aaron Rodgers, when asked about Christian Watson as of 2 weeks ago, was like, yeah, he's on the team. He's definitely on the roster. That's what I'll say about Christian Watson. Whereas Romeo Doubs, first of all, Romeo Doubs was targeted on nearly 40% of his pass routes in the preseason. That's something. Okay. I think that's something to watch. I think he is maybe the only guy who can, in the end, consistently draw targets, command targets from Aaron Rodgers, especially if Allen Lazard is banged up or whatever's happening with Allen Lazard. So, yeah, I mean, Watson can definitely, in a 14-team league, I'm all in on, not all in, but I'm okay with grabbing Watson to stash just in case the best case scenario unfolds here. This is a good one. You know why? It gives me a chance to talk about Rex Burkhead, and I appreciate that. Can I trust Dameon Pierce, or do I need to have running back insurance with Rex Burkhead? It's a good question. Now, generally, I am against rostering 2 running backs from the same backfield because you are kind of undercutting, you are definitely undercutting the depth of your roster when you do that, which is really the whole appeal of zero RB. If you folks want to look into that, I know it's too late if you've already drafted your teams, but Rex Burkhead listen to this. This was a stunning stat, and I have it in the waiver wire column on NBCSportsEdge.com, powered by Rotoworld. Rex Burkhead was 11th in expected running back fantasy points over the final 6 weeks of the 2021 regular season when he became the primary ball carrier for Houston. It doesn't mean that he's good. That's the thing. Throughout this season, you will see I have an affinity for players who are not good. Sorry if you're watching, Rex, but what are we going to do? And Dameon Pierce has only had a maximum touch share of 106 touches in 4 seasons in college. So I don't know if he has, that we can lock him into a full season of a starter's workload in the NFL. Rex Burkhead will get volume. And after Marlon Mack was released and then cut from the practice squad, the ultimate humiliation, Burkhead's the only guy standing in that backfield behind Dameon Pierce. Not wishing anything bad against Dameon Pierce. I have him on many teams. I hope that he does well. But I do think that Burkhead is worth rostering. And, if you have a deep bench and you drafted Pierce, I guess you can get Burkhead. I give you my blessing. Sorry to get religious. All right, here we go. It's way too soon to write off Kadarius Toney with how much upside he has. That's true. Let me check real quick about Kadarius Toney's availability in Yahoo leagues, because I'm guessing that he's not really available. He's rostered in 70%, which is pretty high for a guy who's missed a lot of time, a guy who has not exactly endeared himself to the coaching staff. But Kadarius Toney was a monster in that 3-game stretch last year where he, came out and became the Giants' primary, not just receiver, but offensive weapon. His targets per route run and yards per route run were off the charts, in the elite territory over that small stretch. The thing is, can he not be banged up? Can he have a healthy stretch of play? That's the hope. So if Toney is out there, and especially if you sort of faded top end wide receivers early in your draft, I see no reason to not to roster him just in case. It will be tough though. It will be tough, I think, to find a way to jam him into your lineup most weeks. And this is fair too. I don't trust anyone on the Giants. So the Giants appeal, let me lay this out for you, because it took me a while to sort of come around on this thinking, but you have what will likely be a bad Giants defense that'll give up a lot of big plays. We saw that in the preseason actually already. That generates a lot of play volume, offensive snap volume for the offense. Think of like the Ravens last year, where we saw a huge increase in the Ravens offensive snaps per game, because in large part, the Baltimore defense was ravaged by injuries and was unable to stop anyone. And so that generated a ton of play volume that created an elite season for Mark Andrews, who made Tyler Huntley very serviceable even in one quarterback leagues for a while there. Marquise Brown was not as bad as he had been. So I do think the Giants have that going for them, just pure play volume. Hayden Winks from Underdog Fantasy would say the Giants are among the bad teams that play fast or that will run a lot of plays. You can't ignore that. You can't. So that's where their appeal lies. We have a question here from Adam. Thank you, Adam, for joining the stream team. As the kids are saying, should I be concerned with Breece Hall? I drafted early and was expecting RB2 numbers. I think it could still happen. I am a Michael Carter stan. Never said that word in my life until now, but I don't regret it. I do a little. Michael Carter was running as the RB1 for much of the preseason when the first team offense was in there for the Jets. It's not that Breece Hall is like done for fantasy purposes by any means. Rookies actually, the numbers tell us that rookies tend to come on, rookie running backs tend to come on later in the season. And that's what we could be looking at for Breece Hall. I would be patient, but I do think that Michael Carter has been overlooked after, an excellent rookie season. And I know that it's hard to see that because the Jets were bad, because Michael Carter missed some time. But as a pass catcher and as a rusher, he was everything that we could have hoped for coming out of college. And so he is a thing, and he's not going away in that backfield. Well, here's one. So David says, is OBJ worth picking up and holding? The Rams have said basically that we'll keep the seat warm for Odell Beckham, who of course tore his ACL in the Super Bowl and is currently a free agent. But it would seem that the Rams would be okay and would welcome him back onto the team if he is healthy later in the season. He's not supposed to be ready until November. So I would answer this by saying, if you're in just a regular 12-team league with a normal number of bench spots, you don't need to stash Beckham. If you're in a 14-teamer with deep benches, you might as well just throw him on there. That's how I would answer it. Let's see. Thoughts on picking up Jalen Tolbert if Gallup is already stashed by another team? It makes sense. I mean, Tolbert should be at worst, should be in 3 receiver sets for a Dallas team that will probably have to throw a lot because they're going to be bad. Did you see that quote from Jerry Jones today saying, when asked about his team and their prospects for 2022, Jerry Jones said something along the lines of, I have to believe 1 and 1 equals 3. That is, I don't know. I think it's a bad sign. So I think the Cowboys are going to be truly awful and they're going to have to throw a lot. So that, that could boost Tolbert just the way it boosted Dallas receivers when Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb were out last year. We saw Cedric Wilson became a thing for fantasy, because of that tendency to pass and a defense that gives up big plays and everything. So yeah, I think that's fine. But again, I mean, I just don't know a scenario where you're going to confidently play Jalen Tolbert, but maybe I'm wrong. Adam again. Hello, Adam. Thank you for all the good questions. When do you think Kenny Pickett will take over in Pittsburgh? The analytics say week 4. No, I'm kidding. I would guess it'll take about a month for Mike Tomlin to tire of Mitch Trubisky. There's no indication that Trubisky is like much different than the guy we saw with Chicago. He did the right thing by being a backup and paying his due for one season as a backup to Josh Allen, and he got rewarded with a nice contract and a starting gig. So good for him. But Pickett will start at some point. And I honestly, in Superflex formats, I would be very interested in stashing Kenny Pickett. I believe he's the QB3 on the Pittsburgh depth chart behind Mason Rudolph. I think that's what I saw last night, and it was somewhat shocking. So that's a little bit of an issue for Pickett, but I think that, I'd much rather roster him in Superflex than Mason Rudolph. Let's put it that way. All right, let's get some more questions. We need more. Keep them coming. Well, here's a trade question. I know this is a waiver wire show, but we're going every which way as I get my feet wet here. Would you trade Trey Lance, Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson, Devin Singletary for Prescott, Lamb, and Mitchell? I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a wash. I don't know who's winning there. I guess no. The answer would be no. I do like Singletary. Singletary took basically all the snaps with the Buffalo first team in the preseason. I know that people want James Cook to be a thing, and I'm not entirely opposed to it, but I think that Devin Singletary is sort of being overlooked as a guy who, at the very least, is going to be in there, going to play a lot, get a lot of carries, perhaps get some pass game action. Although for some reason, Devin Singletary is a terrible pass catcher, really horrible, terribly inefficient as a pass. It doesn't make any sense. But don't make that trade. Don't make that trade. All right, yeah. Here's one from David. Is Kenny Golladay worth picking up? Everyone seems low on him. I mean, there's a lot of indication that Kenny Golladay, like most, if not all big receivers, is not aging well. And I just have a really hard time after 2 full seasons, 2.5 seasons really, of precipitous decline for Kenny Golladay. I have a tough time seeing him come back up to form. And I know that the Giants are going to want him on the field because they're paying him an arm and a leg. That's in his contract, actually. No, I'm kidding. But it is an issue where they're going to force him onto the field. I do think that he is at a point health-wise, maybe effort-wise, where it's just not going to happen. So if I had to pick up a Giants receiver right now, I would pick up Wan'Dale Robinson, who is far less washed and probably will be more involved in the Giants' passing attack and maybe the rushing attack. I have to say this about Wan'Dale Robinson. I forgot to say it on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Sorry, guys. Well, I'm going to say it here. We had a Giants beat writer on the Rotoworld football show about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, who said the following. I said, who's the running back insurance? Who's the RB2 behind Saquon Barkley? Is it Matt Breida? Is it this guy? Is it, lots of guys who have been subsequently cut or waived or released? And he said, no. He said it's Wan'Dale Robinson. He would be the primary running back for the New York Football Giants if Saquon Barkley were to miss time. I believe I slobbered on air when he said that, which is embarrassing. Still trying to get over that. But I do think that he holds tremendous appeal and should be rostered in more leagues. Well, let's check. You know what? We're going to check. Sit tight while I check on Wan'Dale Robinson's rostership. Robinson's only rostered in 10% of leagues. Many are asking, Denny, why didn't you include Wan'Dale Robinson in your column? To which I would say, I don't know, but I'm going to add him. I'm going to add him right after this. So thank you for making me go on a tirade about Wan'Dale Robinson. All right, let's get on to the next one. Next question from Mr. or Mrs. Prime. Will Antonio Gibson get his touches back, or will a guy like Jonathan Williams get some run early as Brian Robinson heals up? Obviously, Brian Robinson is recovering from gunshots to his lower body. He was not put on the PUP list, so we could see him in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which would be amazing. And congratulations to him for that, and to hopefully for a quick recovery. Robinson, by the way, if that incident had not happened, I think that he would be rostered in far more leagues. He's available in 60% of leagues. I think you need to get him because the gunshot situation with it didn't eliminate the coach's adoration for Brian Robinson. Ron Rivera loves Brian Robinson. He's going to be the primary back when he's healthy and ready to go. But in the meantime, I think Antonio Gibson will fall into some volume. Obviously, J.D. McKissick is the pass catching back in that Washington backfield, and that is what it is. And we can't be upset about it, even though I want to be all the time. But the team might have no choice but to feed Antonio Gibson. He would profile as the logical goal line back as well, at least for the time being. So I think Gibson is very playable in week 1 against Jacksonville, just as an FYI. All right. Are we going to stash Ingram, I suppose Mark Ingram, Kenneth G. Gainwell IV, or Jeff Wilson. I wrote about Gainwell this offseason, but it's such a murky thing in that Philadelphia backfield that I don't know if I can recommend rostering him over Jeff Wilson. So I would go Wilson. I don't know if Ingram really enters that conversation. I will say, when you mention Ingram here, the Saints had the third lowest pass rate over expected last season, according to our own Patrick Crane. They want to run. They want to establish, at least they did last year. Now, an improved receiving group could change that calculus a bit. But if they're just determined to run the ball and play good defense, then I suppose Ingram could have some value. But I would go Wilson there. Oh, Adam again. Back-to-back questions almost. Adam says, James Robinson is on the waiver wire in all my leagues. The guy was amazing last year, and I think people are forgetting that. People forget. Should I add him to my roster? Yeah, I think you should. If you're set at running back, probably not. But if you might need some help at the running back spot, I think go ahead and do that. These running back recoveries from Achilles tears, like Cam Akers, are incredible and encouraging. These guys tend not to come back as the same players we knew before the injury. We saw that with Akers last year. Really struggled, very very much struggled at the end of the season and into the postseason. So I don't know how much we can expect out of James Robinson, but apparently Doug Peterson, the head coach of the Jaguars, said Robinson will be active for week 1. So go ahead, I guess, and get him. All right, next question. This is a funny one. Not a question, but a good joke. Babytron has turned into Grandpa Tron. It is true. It is true. He kind of runs. He runs like a dad, I would say. And Kenny Golladay did not run like a dad in his prime, his short-lived prime in Detroit. All right, let's move on here. Ooh, wow, really? Jacob says, I don't trust any Eagles players not named Jalen Hurts. I guess because I talked about Kenny Gainwell, but I think you're missing out here, Jacob. I mean, first of all, the Eagles have the third easiest schedule in the entire league. The Giants have the easiest, by the way. Just file that one away. Nick Sirianni has indicated that going all in on an alpha receiver like AJ Brown means that they will throw the ball more. They'll be more balanced than they were last year when they were unbelievably run heavy. I think their pass rate when they were leading last year was like 39%. Something abysmally low. But it worked. It worked for them. I actually think that they had to do that with their personnel the way it was. That changes this year. Jalen Hurts, according to many reports coming out of camp and then in the preseason and then in practice heading up to this Lions game in week 1, have said that he has more pocket presence. He's more accurate. He understands the offense better. I think we could see an improvement. I know Rotoworld's Matthew Berry has talked about Jalen Hurts could see a major improvement in dropping back and passing, which would boost this whole offense, would boost Devontae Smith, would boost Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, everybody in this offense. So I'm excited about the Eagles offense, especially at ADP. I said on Twitter the other day, and you can find me on Twitter at CDCarter13. If you want to do that to yourself. Sorry, I tweet a lot, but I said AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown has a chance to be this year's Cooper Kupp, and I know that they're not going at the same ADP. I get that, but yak monster, yards after catch, target per route rate monster, insanely efficient, just a target hog. I'm very high on that Eagles offense, so don't write them off, I guess would be my would be my suggestion. All right, we have a question here. Isaiah McKenzie or Josh Palmer or KJ Osborne as a waiver wire pickup. I want to thank you for the 11 question marks. It adds urgency that I think we need in this chat. So thank you. It's McKenzie. I know McKenzie has a little bit of a groin issue. The Bills say that he should be okay for week 1, but McKenzie seized that very valuable slot role in Josh Allen's offense. It just took it from Jamison Crowder. I think Crowder was probably the favorite headed into the offseason. McKenzie said no. McKenzie has been insanely productive when given a full complement of snaps and targets and routes. Yeah, get him, man. He should be rostered. All right, we're gonna do another check here on Isaiah McKenzie. He's rostered in 53% of leagues. What? You gotta get that guy. I mean, look, Gabe Davis skeptics they pray every night. And again, sorry to get religious, but they pray every night that Isaiah McKenzie turns out to be the wide receiver 2 in this Buffalo offense. And I am not discounting that completely. All right, well, let's get on to David. Says B Rob and Gus Bus on my IR spots. Oh, I see. Brian Robinson and Gus Edwards on well, I mean, I know it's an IR spot, so you're not clogging up your bench, but I don't think Gus Edwards should be rostered anywhere. There are so many miles to go for Gus Edwards to have fantasy relevance again. J.K. Dobbins should be back in some capacity. Kenyon Drake, was I think I mentioned it a few minutes ago. Kenyon Drake is not washed. Had a pretty decent 2021 before that ankle injury. So I don't know about Gus Edwards. All right. Is Taysom Hill with tight end eligibility worth stashing over some of the stronger early season waiver wire pickups? Well, yeah, I'm Taysom pilled. Okay. Like I am. And I took him in a lot of best ball leagues. I get the appeal. It's amazing when you can plug in a tight end who gets quarterback snaps. But even if Jameis Winston goes down, I don't think Taysom's going to get those snaps. I obviously the Saints went out and they signed Andy Dalton. I just had to confirm that because that seems like 600 years ago that happened. But they signed Andy Dalton, and I don't think they signed Andy Dalton to play backup to Taysom Hill. So I guess the dream might be dead. The Taysom Hill dream might be dead. But you could do worse. You could do worse than to roster Taysom, and it maybe in a deeper format. Here's a good one from our guy David. Is Knox? I'm going to start this again. If Dawson Knox is your starting tight end, is Isaiah Likely a good backup? Okay, my suggestion would be if you're in a 12-team league where you only have to start one tight end, do not carry a backup tight end. Just don't do it. You don't carry, I know not in your league. Okay, this doesn't work in your league, whatever. But if you're in a 12-team league where you start one quarterback and one tight end and one defense and one kicker, hopefully you still have kickers, the only legitimate position in fantasy. Hopefully you are only rostering one of those each. They're called onesie positions, and you only need to roster one. Okay, Isaiah Likely had a great preseason and everything. By the way, he's the tight end 2 for Baltimore, and he should get a fair number of snaps and routes in an offense that runs a lot of 2 tight end sets. Okay, I get that. I'm going to look really silly if Isaiah Likely comes out and catches 3 balls in week 1, two of which go for touchdowns. I'm going to look like an idiot, but I'm willing to take that chance and to say you don't need to roster Likely if you have Dawson Knox, who is a superior option. So there you go. All right, let's do a few more. Let's do a few more here. Oh yeah, Naheem Hines Is he worth adding over Jeff Wilson? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Frank Reich has been open over the past month or so, and it's been nice to hear Frank Reich say, we don't want to be this ground and pound, run first type team that we were last year. And they were and they had to operate that way, especially late in the season, because they had to hide Carson Wentz. It was that simple. He said, we don't want to play that because we know that that's not how you win Super Bowls. The teams that are winning Super Bowls are not playing that way. And now with Matt Ryan under center and with Michael Pittman, perhaps taking the next step as the wide receiver 1 in Indianapolis, Alec Pierce added this season as a rookie, Paris Campbell, who, we were obsessed with Paris Campbell, at least I was, before Alec Pierce came along. That's a really good 3 wide receiver set. You add to that Mo Alley Cox. What I'm saying is the Colts are positioned to pass the ball, I think, way more than we think. That's good for Nyheim Hines, one of the most efficient, best pass catching backs in the league. He also has the contingency value that's off the charts. We don't wish injury on anybody. That's not what we're doing here. We are saying that if Jonathan Taylor misses any time this year, Nyheim Hines in PPR formats especially becomes a top 10 play, just a plugged in top 10 play. So yes, if Hines is out there in your league, you need to get him. Let's check. We're checking his rostership. He's rostered in 70% of leagues, so you can still get him in 3 out of 10 leagues. That's not bad. Go do it. All right, let's scroll down here. All right, I'm going to try to stay away from start sits, folks. So if you have waiver wire questions, go ahead and throw them at me. I'm sorry. I am scrolling. I'm scrolling as fast as I can. I'm reading as fast as I can. Yes, Cody Heim. Thank you, Cody. Jalen Warren is the RB2 for the Steelers. He's a name that you need to be familiar with, especially if you faded running backs early and you're looking to stock up your bench with guys who can sort of stumble into opportunity. That's what you have with Jalen Warren. I wrote him up in the waiver wire column on NBCSportsEdge.com. This is a Steelers team that's going to want to be run heavy. This is also a Steelers team that has a running back in Najee Harris, who last year had more touches than anybody in the league. And we learned just recently that he's been struggling with a Liz Frank sprain, not a fracture, but a sprain for weeks in August. Apparently he's okay, but this is not the first foot issue that Najee Harris has dealt with in his football career. He dealt with that in college. I think that Jalen Warren is a great stash. He's rostered in 2% of leagues. You could get way out in front of that, of Harris having to sit and rest the foot at some point. Warren could be very valuable. Could even be a 3-down back in the Steelers offense. So I'm pretty high on him. I didn't realize how high I was on Jalen Warren until you mentioned it. Damian Williams, on the other hand, yeah. I mean, he could be somewhat useful in games where the Falcons can create some neutral and positive game script. If you're looking at like week 1 against a really tough Saints defense that I think could eat the Falcons alive, I don't know if Damian Williams is playable even in 14-team leagues, but worth a look. All right, let's do like 3 more. Well, now we have a question. Is Warren even Najee Harris's backup? I thought it was Bell. I don't know who Bell is. Benny Snell, perhaps? Yeah, I mean, Benny Snell's not like disappearing, but he's also Benny Snell. Like, we know what we're getting with Benny Snell. The team knows what they're getting. I'm checking the depth chart now. Yeah, Jalen Warren on the Steelers depth chart is listed as the RB2. Benny Snell as 3, Jeremy McNichols as 4, and McNichols is on IR. So it's Warren, guys. It's Jalen Warren. Sizzin. Not yet, but maybe it will be. You never know. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, Kyle Jones says, is Robert Tonyan, the Packers tight end, worth stashing through week 1 if he doesn't play? I would say yes if you're in like a deep league where the waiver wire is just hellish week in and week out, and you want a shot to get a guy, a tight end who could be a plug and play. I think Tonyan, who led all tight ends in 2020 in fantasy points over expected because of all the touchdowns and all the big plays. I think he's kind of the lost man in this conversation of who's going to take on the Devontae Adams role. And not that he can take on that role, but who's going to fill that void? Massive void, okay? The biggest void possible in the modern NFL. And all we've talked about is, is it Dobbs? Is it Sammy Watkins? It's not Watkins. Okay, no matter what Davis Maddox says, it's not Watkins. And is it Randall? Who's gonna take it? Tonyan is a favorite of Aaron Rodgers. Right before his injury last year, right before that knee injury that knocked him out for the season, Tonyan's snap rate and his route participation rate were skyrocketing. It was very positive after a slow start to the season. Then he suffers the injury. Maybe we're still 2-3 weeks away, maybe more, from Tonyan being a thing. But once he gets out there, I think he becomes really interesting in a Packers offense that will obviously spread it around quite a bit. Let's see. Let's get on to what do I think of Trey Lance? I think he's good. I also think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to eventually take over that job. I said it, and I mean it. I mean, look, that's a win now team. And if Trey Lance struggles, Kyle Shanahan will have no hesitation to pull the plug. Say, okay, all right, kid, maybe next year. But Jimmy, get in there. All right, here we go. James asks, Isaiah Pacheco, the Chiefs running back. It says, when do you cut TIR? Well, I'll just talk about Isaiah Pacheco. He's rostered in 30% of leagues. I think it should be a little more. He's going to be the kick returner for Kansas City this year. So, he's going to be active. I think Jerick McKinnon has shown himself to be a reliable pass catcher for the Kansas City offense. Now, that doesn't necessarily translate to fantasy usefulness or viability, because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, friend of the show, by the way, is still going to be the primary ball carrier. So this Kansas City backfield is disgusting. But Pacheco could possibly emerge as a primary ball carrier if something happens to CEH, and something often happens to things happen to CEH. So stash him if you can, but I wouldn't prioritize him at the moment. All right, let's get some waiver stuff here. I'm sorry for the Trey Lance blasphemy. I want him to succeed, guys. I don't like this reputation of me like not liking Trey Lance. I think that he's a fine young man, and I hope that he does really well. We will see. All right. Oh, stop. Jimmy G's not being traded. Stop it. Jeez. What do we have here? I got CEH and Penny as my bench. Well, that's a pretty good bench. I don't even know. Who are you starting? What did you get? Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry to start? And Rashaad Penny, I would give my left pinky finger for Rashaad Penny on some of my teams. Penny's a great early season option, by the way. He's not, I don't think he's out there in any leagues, but let me check. Yeah, he's only out there in 10%. But with Kenneth Walker out, Kenny Walker, I don't know. With him out, I think Penny is an excellent option. The best running back in the NFL for the last 6 weeks of the season last year. So someone said Tutu Atwell. I don't even. want to acknowledge that. I'm sorry. Let's see. Well, I shared my thoughts on Devin Singletary. Why does no one like Devin Singletary? I think because he doesn't dominate when he gets the chance. But the team seems comfortable with him, as the primary ball carrier, and that's kind of what matters to us. No matter what you think of Devin Singletary as a player, although I will say Devin Singletary's yards before contact, which is a measure of explosiveness, and his elusive rating are pretty great over the past 2 seasons. Pretty great. Sean Siegel of RotoViz has said, hey, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying Devin Singletary comps well to Barry Sanders. I know you're mad. You're upset. You're screaming at the computer. You've actually taken your computer, you've thrown it across the room. I'm just telling you. Okay. All right. Let's do one more here. Ramondre Stevenson with Ty Montgomery potentially coming back. Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's address this real quick. Ty Montgomery, I don't think is a good waiver ad right now. I think you could still be confident in Ramondre Stevenson. Bill Belichick has talked glowingly of Ramondre. He's calling him Mondre. For goodness sakes, folks. What more do you need? He's calling him by his nickname. He could adopt him soon. He loves this guy. And Belichick has complimented Stevenson's improvement as a pass blocker, as a pass catcher, as an overall football player. No doghouse for Stevenson this year. I don't really care if Ty Montgomery comes back. Stevenson still has, I think, both a floor and potentially a ceiling, depending on Damian Harris's usage as a pass catcher. And as a guy who had a 3% target share last year, I don't have much confidence in Harris taking on any part of that role. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining the stream, this Q&A waiver wire stream. Thank you. I will be back every week to do this on Tuesdays at 1:00 in the Eastern time zone, the only legitimate time zone in the United States or any other country. You can find me on Twitter at CDCarter13. You can find the waiver wire column on NBCSportsEdge.com, powered by Rotoworld. Thank you. Have a good day.